So we've already talked about heel, flap, and gusset, but what about short row heels? So this is the way that I usually knit my socks. And the way that I do this is I knit all the way up to where my heel is going to start, which is about 2 inches shorter than my foot, because the heel creates about 2 inches of fabric and we want it to fit properly. So I knit to this point, which for me is 8 inches. And then I start to work a short row heel. So the one that I use is a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and that is a paid pattern. So I can't show you how she does hers because it's sort of a specific way that she has developed. But essentially, it is a short row, very similar to the German short row, but she uses a little bit of a different stitch. So I'm going to show you the German short row. And basically how the German short row works is you are, again, you're not working in the round anymore. You're just going to be knitting back and forth across this area. And you are knitting a series of back and forth. So we go across on this side, we do a German short row, and then we move to the other side, we do another German short row. Then on the next rounds, you are going to knit until just before that previous short row, German short row, and you're going to make another one. And then you're going to go back just before the last one, and you're going to do another German short row. So essentially you're kind of like creating this shortening stretch of fabric until you get to the end here. And generally the stitches are divided into thirds. So let's say I've got 30 stitches across half of my sock. So I'm going to keep going back and forth with my German short rows until I have 1/3 of my stitches on either side worked in German short rows, and then 1/3 of my stitches unworked. So 10, 10, 10. And then what happens is we flip the sock around and we continue knitting in an opposite pattern. So we're going to be knitting back and forth, but we're going to keep going on either side past the German short row each time. So now the piece of fabric is lengthening again. And when you come to the end of it, you will see that your stitches kind of connect here. So you're essentially changing the direction of the knitting. So you come up with your sock like this, then you kind of do the shaping here, and then you are moving back that way. So that creates the bend in the foot that we're looking for. And you have this nice little seam of stitches here. And the purpose of the actual stitch is to shorten it or kind of tighten it up so that you're not left with holes. So I'm going to show you how you work a German short row. So you're going to knit until the point where it tells you to do your German short row. So we're going to knit to that point, and then we're going to turn the work. With the yarn in front, we're going to slip that first stitch purlwise, and then we're going to snug this yarn up. This is what's going to tighten it to prevent holes. So you're going to snug it up like this, and because we're still working purl stitches, we're going to bring the yarn back through the middle so that it's in front. And then we're going to continue purling across this row. So this is how to work it on the wrong side. So you can see what happens here is you are creating almost 2 stitches out of 1 stitch. So this is what they refer to as the double stitch. So it looks like 2, But when we come back to knit it later, we're going to just knit it as one stitch. And I'm just going to continue to the other end, and I will show you how to work the German short row on the other side. So now that we've gotten to the end of this row, we're just going to flip the work around, and we want the yarn to be in the front, and then we're going to slip this first stitch purlwise. And we're going to do the same thing where we snug it up, but instead of bringing the yarn back to the front, we're going to just keep it at the back so that we can continue to knit this row. And if we look back at it, you can see that it has created that same kind of double stitch here. And you're going to keep knitting until you get to the point where they tell you to knit your next double stitch. So we're going to flip it around, and since we're on a purl side, we are going to just slip that stitch purlwise, and we're going to snug up this yarn and bring it back around to the front so that we're on the right side to work a purl stitch. Now you can see we have one double stitch, two double stitches. So with each round that you are working, you can see that you're shortening the row. And the double stitches on each end are just kind of tightening that space up so that you're not left with a big hole. And the nice thing about this one is that they're easy to see. They're easy to differentiate between the regular stitches. So you don't necessarily need a lot of stitch markers unless that's helpful to you to, put a stitch marker there to help you. So I'm just going to show you one more time on this side. So you're going to knit until the point it tells you to do your next double stitch. And it's right here. So, whoops. So we're going to flip the work around. And because we are on the stockinette side, we're going to bring the yarn to the front. We're going to slip that stitch purlwise, and then we're just going to snug it up a little bit and then start knitting. So now we've got two on this side. So basically you're going to continue that kind of pattern until you have done double stitches on a third of your stitches on this side and a third of your stitches on this side. And you will have another third of stitches in the center that are unworked. So when we go to build the second half of the heel, we're essentially going to be doing the same thing, except we're going to be making these rows gradually longer instead of shorter. So just follow the instructions in your pattern. It'll tell you exactly what number of stitches you're going to be knitting on each row and where they want you to place your double stitches. So at some point in the pattern, it's going to tell you to knit your double stitches, and it can be a little bit confusing because yes, they do look like they are two stitches, but this is actually one stitch, and you're just going to knit it as though it is one stitch. So I'll bring it up a little closer. So it looks like two, but you're just going to knit it as though it is one stitch, just like that. Okay, and same with this one. We're just going to knit it like that. And there you go.